summit is something that changes a person's life. God, He wants to change your life, but He cannot do it if you don't want it. You shape yourself. Remember it. God won't force you to shape yourself. Therefore, you choose how to live. You choose your destiny. You choose your path. God handed it over to your hands. Don't expect this from God. Don't put your responsibility on God. If you want your desire to come alive, start using counter-arguments against the idea that miracles don't ever happen. I want you to write it down. If you want your desire to come alive, you need to use counter-arguments against the idea that miracles don't ever happen. You may be sitting somewhere in this hall, or you may be watching us, and you have already lost your desire, for you have come to grips with the fact that nothing is ever going to happen. No, this situation can change. You have sort of agreed with it and given up. How can you come out of that situation? Start challenging the idea. This thing is impossible. No, I'm going to challenge that truth. I will challenge the idea that miracles are impossible. Now, what practical steps do we need to take? The first thing you do is ask questions. Do you know what I always did? I had quite a few situations where it seemed to me that the positive outcome was impossible. So I would ask myself a question. And why on earth not? Why can't it happen? And I would start challenging myself with questions. And when I did that, I sort of shook the foundation of that feeling that was deeply rooted inside of me. Here is a question to ask. And who said that those things could not happen? So you start asking questions. Our own conclusions, now pay attention, all of you, happen to be quick and powerful. We are not talking of something dead here. All of our conclusions are quick and powerful. And they're like watchmen that keep you under control. They also have a voice. By the way, it's a very loud voice. But you only start hearing that voice when you let yourself go beyond the boundaries that control you. Let us say there are some conclusions. They're in your unconsciousness already. You're not even aware of their presence. But as soon as you decide to change something in your life, those conclusions will suddenly come back to life. They will start talking to you. They will literally begin to shout in your ears. Miracles are impossible. I went through the same experience many times. I remember my first ice palace. Just imagine this situation. I choose to strive for the impossible, and this is something I always teach you. Just imagine. We are a church, and we are talking of something that no one has ever done before. By the way, this is something that always shakes your faith, is that right? No church has ever done it. There were some visiting ministers like Kenneth Copeland, Joyce Myers, that's right, but no pastor has ever tried to rent the ice palace. But all of a sudden, I had that idea, why not? So I rented the ice palace, just imagine it. It's like the palace of sports here in Kiev. And we didn't have that many church members at that time, just about 1,000 people, that was it. Nobody knew me. I mean it, no one. Today everything is different, everybody knows us. Are you aware of that? Everybody knows the Spiritual Regeneration Center, Vladimir Muntian. People know who I am, but back then nobody knew us. Absolutely no one. Look, we didn't have a TV channel back then. We were not using the internet. I'm not even sure it already existed back then. To make the long story short, there was absolutely no advertising available. The only thing we had were a few posters that we had printed out and distributed around the city. Now think of what the devil told me. He started putting pressure upon me with all the power he had, and all of a sudden the ideas I had on the inside came to life. Who on earth are you? Really, who are you? I'm telling you everything that happened. I'll never forget those thoughts. You mean you want to rent the Ice Palace? So Joyce Myers rented it. But she's a world-famous minister, and who the hell are you? Kenneth Copeland. You know, it looks as though those demons know all those names. But who are you? I remember that I didn't have any answer. All I would say was, I believe. And I would say, I'm going to rent the Ice Palace, and it will be filled with people. I believed it, I kept believing, I stood in faith. Yes, I stood in faith, and you know what? The whole thing seemed impossible, because it's really impossible. And then the day of our service in the Ice Palace came. Just imagine the state I was in. I was really stressed out. A minute, where were all those people going to come from? How could they even come? Even if 2,000 people came, it would mean defeat to me. You see, I had sowed my faith, and I believed that the Ice Palace would be jam-packed. Because if you strive for the impossible, and then the hall is only half full, it means that you have lost. Is that right? So you're in the state because you have strived for the impossible, and all those old ideas and conclusions rose up in me, and the devils rose up too. But here's the gist of everything. Just imagine, here I'm coming into the hall, and this is the picture I see. The Ice Palace is filled with people, and all those visitors were unbelievers. Dear partners, thank you for your faithfulness. Many people experience the power of God because of you today. Vladimir Muntian's ministry is the ministry that brings new free life and also gives the opportunity to be happy and a healthy person.